Sunday, May 6, 2012. Temperature is in the 60s with partly cloudy skies and scattered showers. After breakfast at her hotel, Sue and I walked 3 blocks to the train station to catch a train to Mainz to see the Gutenberg Museum. Trains run between Koblenz and Mainz about once every hour. It is about 50 minutes to get to Mainz by train, as it follows the Rhine River. When we got to Mainz, we learned that the buses to the Gutenberg Museum were not running because there was a marathon going on through town that day. It was just under 1 mile from the train station to the museum, so we decided to walk. Johannes Gutenberg was born in Mainz in the year 1397. Situated on the banks of the Rhine River, Mainz was then a town of some 6,000 residents. At the time, most books like the Bible were copied by hand. It took about 3 years for copyists to produce one Bible. Gutenberg was an experienced metalworker. He discovered that printing could best be achieved with movable letters made of metal. He invented a method of casting molds for all 26 letters of the alphabet, along with upper and lower case letters, punctuation marks, signs, and numbers. This movable type could then be placed on a printing press in a relatively short period of time for printing on paper. In the 3 years it took for copyists to produce one Bible by hand, Gutenberg's printing press could produce about 180 Bibles. The first Gutenberg Bible was completed in 1455. Each Bible was in 2 volumes, had 1,282 pages, with 42 lines to a page, printed in 2 columns. The ornamental hand painting of the headings and the first letter of each chapter were done later outside Gutenberg's workshop. Gutenberg's invention spread rapidly. By the year 1500, there were printing presses in 60 German towns and 12 other European countries. Gutenberg's printing press revolutionized communication, similar to how the Internet has revolutionized communications today. His invention, however, was more than just a faster way of printing books. It also fueled a revolution, which marked the beginning of the end of the spiritual Dark Ages. Some 70 years after Gutenberg's invention, Pope Leo X began to raise money to finance the renovation of St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. He did this by the sale of indulgences. An indulgence was a legal document signed by the Pope that would buy a person's way out of purgatory and into heaven, a sort of get-out-of-jail-free card, only it wasn't free. Martin Luther was an Augustinian monk and a Catholic priest. Even as a young man, he began questioning various Catholic teachings that to him contradicted what he was learning through his study of the Scriptures. At the time, a Bible was expensive to purchase and was only available in Latin, an ancient language that was no longer used by the common people. With little understanding of Bible truths, the common people were at the mercy of the church to tell them what God required. On October 31, 1517, Martin Luther nailed to the church door at Wittenberg 95 theses exposing wrong teachings of the church, which included harsh criticism of the sale of indulgences. Luther's study of the Scriptures taught him that salvation was a free gift from God that could only be achieved by exercising faith in Jesus' ransom sacrifice. Nobody can buy their way into heaven, and the Pope had no authority to charge money for everlasting life. Then in 1520, Luther published the pamphlets An Address to the Christian Nobility of the German Nation, The Babylonian Captivity of the Church, and The Liberty of Christian Man. Each became stronger in criticism of the Church and the Pope. There were, of course, critics of the Church prior to Martin Luther. However, the Church could easily silence a critic by labeling him a heretic, which often carried a death sentence. Martin Luther had a new weapon not available to those who came before him. He had the power of the press to spread his ideas to the masses. In addition to printing his sermons on the newly invented Gutenberg press, he also translated and printed the Bible in the common tongue of the German people. Thus, Gutenberg's printing press was instrumental in fueling the 16th century Reformation. No wonder Luther described the printing press as God's way to spread the true religion throughout the world.